Quest of the Magi. Crowds filled the mall that Saturday in December. It was 1 year, perhaps 2, before the COVID year, so nobody wore masks, and the Christmas music still played from speakers throughout the halls. Kids ran ahead of their parents to pet the ears of the elephant that peered out from the lush plastic leaves that obscured the wall of the Rainforest Cafe. Merchant kiosks like stones in a stream sold traditional wares such as calendars for the upcoming year, American Idol, cats, dogs, cars, guitars. Notably without customers was the kiosk that sold hand-carved nativity scenes. The rivers of people consisted of the young, the old, the rich, the poor, of all races, of all ethnicities, of all mixtures. A wonderful morass of humanity reflecting the melting pot mescla that we like to call America. White, black, brown, high yellow, yellow, cream, red, rustic, and wearing all manner of wonderful clothing. Jeans, t-shirts, both ripped and unripped, sarongs, hijabs, split skirts, shorts, pants, overcoats, knit caps, baseball caps, and even a Sikh with a turban. Above the heads of all the people hung banners saying, "Happy Holidays, Happy Hanukkah, and Merry Christmas." In the hallway between Eagle Outfitters and Hospital, there stood an enormous throne, backed by 3 or 4 mountainous present boxes, wrapped in ribbons as wide as 2 human torsos, stacked atop each other so as to obscure the throne from the back, which was to prevent personal photos from being taken of Santa Claus himself, who, for a few hours each day, would host a single child at a time, for a photo to be taken for $5 for 1 and $10 for 3. Each year since 9/11, it must be noted, the lines for Santa had dwindled. The Santas themselves had not noticed, because Santa was inhabited by a different fat white man each year, but the mall accountants, those who had any tenure, knew it, as they had seen a notable decline in remittances from the photography agency that put on the whole affair year after year, until such time that the agency would finally decide to pack up the Santa stuff and sell it off at cost. But on that year, that particular year, in through the doors beside Books A Million walked 3 men. 3 strange men. Even among the variety of humans in their variety of vestments and their variety of skin tones and variety of languages, these men stood out as something other. It would seem as though they were tall. However, whether they were tall naturally or appeared tall due to their vestments would have been hard to determine. Their clothes were what immediately drew attention. One wore a green cloak with a gold crown, the other a gold cloak with a blue turban, and the third a purple cloak with a silver crown. Each man was bedecked with jeweled rings, nearly one for each finger. The man in the green cloak wore a fascia, highly embroidered with gold thread in the designs of stars and the sun and the crescent moon. The man in the gold cloak and blue turban wore a sash with a jeweled dagger, the only part visible being the hilt, which was inlaid with rubies and sapphires and diamonds, so many stones that a prism was projected from reflected light onto the floor before each of his steps. The man with the purple cloak and the silver crown wore shoes much like the others. Slippers, actually, is how they appeared to the people, but slippers embroidered intricately with lace designs that appeared to be tigers, moving and roaring and stretching forth their claws with every step forward. Almost before the people in the food court saw the 3 men, they heard them, speaking in loud, booming voices, each of them in turn, but repeating the same announcement. "Where is he that is born King of the Jews?" they said. "For we have seen his star in the east, and are come to worship him." A few people in the food court were a little amused. Some smiled nervously. One mother or two instinctively put a protective arm around her child. The men walked past Hellsberg Diamonds, where the store manager, by training, had moved in front of the glass showcases to shield the exposed necklaces from these strange men who came shouting about kings and stars. As the 3 walked past Burger King and Asian 2, a teenager with a tray of samples from Lou's Cajun Grill held out one on a toothpick in their general direction. The man in the green cloak merely asked the boy, "Where is he that is born King of the Jews? We have seen his star in the east and are come to worship him." The teenager just shrugged and said, "I don't know, dude. Sorry. Would you like to try our spicy beef?" The men walked on, through the food court. A couple of fat-cheeked and black-haired children ran from the tables to tug at their vestments with tiny hands, before their mothers grabbed them and smacked their hands, saying, "Venga para allá." The men split up at Bath & Body Works, one headed toward Aeropostale and American Eagle Outfitters, another toward RH Outlet, and another headed back toward their entrance. As they went, each proclaimed loudly, "Where is he that is born King of the Jews? For we have seen his star in the east and are come to worship him." Everywhere they went that afternoon, they were met with bemused smiles and cell phones streaming media. The pics and videos began to flow out on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook, on TikTok. The social media posts had captions such as, "Check this swag, looks like someone spiked the eggnog," and WTF is this shit?" with 3 emojis of the face crying tears of laughter. Some were more appreciative, posting such quotes as "awesome bling" and "old school Christmas," like 2,000-year-old school. Some people would run up to the men and take selfies. More often than the other two, the man in the purple cloak and the silver crown with the embroidered tiger slippers was seen that day across the internet, looking directly and deeply into the camera, saying intently, "Where is he that is born King of the Jews? We have seen his star in the east and are come to worship him." At one point, a teenager, trying to be helpful, was seen to say, "I don't know, dude, don't want to sound racist, but I think you might want to ask for him at Jared's." As they continued their trek around the mall, after about an hour or so, as with all unusual events, the pictures began to lessen, the smiles began to wane, and the fat-cheeked and dark-haired children stopped running up to tug on the hems of their cloaks. The cell phones were turned back toward their owners. Even though the men's stentorious voices did not wane, their proclamations eventually became nothing more than a part of the general background noise of the mall. It must be noted, however, that each man did at one point pass by the kiosk that sold hand-carved nativity scenes. The owner of the kiosk, each time he made eye contact with each man, felt hot tears well in his eyes and a warm feeling of pure joy swell in his chest and his throat, which he would describe that night to his wife as being almost unable to breathe and yet finally breathing for the first time. At last, eventually, the 3 men made their way through the mall and met up with each other at the AMC movie theater, where they were last seen buying popcorn and ices and making their way toward the theater showing Jumanji: The Next Level.